Really excited today here with Pete, pretty cool guy. And as you can see from behind me, we're at his shop here at Gruber Motors here in the Phoenix area. And today we have quite a treat because Pete has been so kind to offer me to stop by at some point, and today is that some point, which is pretty cool. We're gonna check out some really awesome Roadsters today, including one very special Roadster I'm hearing. But we're gonna take a look at the shop too, because this is kind of a special place. And for those of you that don't know, Pete's got quite a cool story to share, and instead of me telling you that story, I think it'd be cool for him to share a little bit of the background of how Gruber Motors started and where we are today.
Well, we're very honored to have the bearded Tesla come and visit us. So yeah, we can start in the electronics lab, which is typically where the tours begin.
This is gonna be so cool. So many Model S's. This is like not just the place for Roadsters, there's a Model S on every parking spot out here.
I'd like to take a moment to thank today's video sponsor, Delete Me. You may not realize this, but there are data brokers out there who are constantly mining and selling your private information. And although it's not always nefarious, it can lead to some pretty uncomfortable situations. Just recently, I posted a video that was somewhat critical of Tesla and how they're not being very clear on what features are and are not available when you buy full self-driving. It wasn't long after that somebody actually doxed me, and it was pretty uncomfortable. It was very eye-opening and somewhat scary. And before CES 2024, I decided to give Delete Me a try, submitted my information, and in about 7 days, I got my first report. Delete Me reviewed 940 listings, had 89 listings removed, identified 57 data brokers with my personal information, and found 476 listings that included my personal information. So how this works. First, you submit your information. Experts search for that information. They then process removal requests for all these places it pops up, and then they continue to scan and submit for deletions all throughout the year. Now, of course, you can provide specific locations you want your information removed, but Delete Me identifies many places your data can be sold and facilitates all the work on your behalf. Delete Me continues to monitor these sites and repeats removal requests as they appear. Now, Delete Me has extended an offer of 20% off for all of my viewers by using code BTG. You can also click the link in the description, joindeleteme.com/BTG, and it'll automatically apply that discount for you. So thanks again to Delete Me for sponsoring today's video.
All right, Pete, so tell me a little bit about Gruber Motors, how this thing started, because it's kind of a cool story. You've told me before, but for everybody else.
It is. In 2014, I bought a Tesla Roadster, and not realizing that we've been in the Tesla repair business all along, because we repair critical power equipment, uninterruptible power systems in data centers, co-locations, large computer rooms. And it took me about 9 months or so to figure out that my little Tesla Roadster was the same thing that's in these data centers. There's a DC plant or a bunch of batteries. Then there's a three-phase inverter that converts the three-phase type AC power. And the only difference is one powers the drive motor, the other one powers all the servers in the computer room. So within a month, we hired someone that actually was chartered with not only managing tech services over in critical power, but I challenged him with finding some Tesla customers, and he did in short order. We got our first Tesla Roadster from the Bay Area, found out that not only can we repair the three-phase inverter that was defective, that was going to cost them $10,000 with Tesla, we fixed it for $2,300 and rebuilt it and upgraded it. And the word, of course, spread quickly, and that's why this exists today, because we're an alternative. To repair these types of cars requires much more of an engineering electronics background. There's some mechanical work, there's no doubt about that, because they look like cars, 4 tires, suspension, you know, cabin, that type of thing. But what's inside the cars is distinctly different. Here, for example, are some Tesla Roadster PEMs, they call them, power electronics module. And what this box does is it takes all of that DC power, comes into here, 400 amps at 400 volts DC, and it converts it to three-phase AC with these three-phase boards. And then it goes out here to a three-phase AC induction motor, which was invented well over 100 years ago by Nikola Tesla, and that's really where the name came from. What we end up having to do is none of these parts that you see that go in the Tesla Roadster or some of these boards here are in production anymore because, you know, Tesla only built 2,412 of these cars, and very few are left, about, you know, just under 2,000. And no one is making these boards or these modules again because it's way too expensive. The majority of work that takes place at this level is done by engineers, and you can see they need optics. They're very tiny components on these boards, so they use microscopes. And to give you an idea how much the technology has improved, that is a Tesla Roadster three-phase inverter that we were first looking at there. And of course, there's one in every car. This is the Tesla Model S three-phase inverter. It does the same job that this does. It's a third the size, and it's twice the horsepower. So you begin to get an idea how much the technology has actually evolved and changed. Now, you know, Elon just recently open sourced a lot of the Roadster documentation, and that helps. But what we're doing now is ChatGPT. You can create a custom version of that, which is the thing we did the second day it was released, because Elon had just open sourced all his software, and we fed a number of megs of data into a specialized Roadster GPT now, merging it with our knowledge base. So now the technicians can simply talk to ChatGPT and say, what does this error code mean? What is this description? And it dials in exactly where the problem is. What you see here are more Roadsters under roof than anywhere on the planet.
This is incredible. How many Roadsters do you have in this building right now?
We typically have about 50. There are like 4 of them on their way in right now.
Wow.
I think a couple have arrived. And we also work on other types of batteries. What you see here is very unusual. This is a LaFerrari battery. The LaFerrari is a hybrid, and this is the hybrid battery that scavenges all of the regen braking to augment the V12 that's in the car. See that battery over there is a 1,000-pound Tesla Roadster battery pack. It was $30,000 replacement cost from Tesla. They just raised it to $40,000, and people bitterly complained. Now, just to give you some perspective, this LaFerrari battery, which is a quarter the size of that, is $300,000. The McLaren P1 batteries are $200,000 to $300,000 as well. So the Tesla folks are really getting a break. Now, as you walk through here, you'll see license plates from all over the United States. We've got Canada here. The 3 Chinese Roadsters were right where you're standing, 1 underneath there and 2 there.
For those of you who don't know, so Pete and team were actually honorably selected to help with the transfer. I think it was 3, right? 3 you said?
Yeah.
3 OG Roadsters from China. They were in crates, or they were in
sea containers.
Sea containers,
yes.
Yeah. And they had like no miles on them, basically, right?
The actual mileage ended up being 104, 109, and 124. Wow. Now, the reason for that is Tesla originally allowed only 30 miles of test driving on the Roadsters before they would turn them over to owners. In 2010, somewhere along the way, they decided, yeah, we've got some QC problems that aren't being flushed out with a 30-mile test drive, so let's raise that to 100. A customer comes to us and said, you know what? There are 3 sea containers in Guangdong, China at the dock. They opened them up and they found that there were 3 Tesla cars in these sea containers. And we bought them. We had to relieve 13 years of storage charges at $60 a day per car. So that was into 6 figures. So they relieved that cost and then decided, you know, these cars are probably collectible, but who can sell these for us? So they ended up coming to us. We did a big promotion with them. We posted them on our Roadster matchmaking site, which is on our website. And we started collecting bids because nobody had any idea what they're going to be worth. You know, normally these cars, if they're for sale, you can guess, you know, 100, 120,000, somewhere in that range. Well, so we ended up putting them out to bid, and the bids started to collect and come in. Then the magazines started to get involved because it's a first EV barn find. The bids got up to $2 million for the 3 of them.
God.
And of course, again, the magazines picked that up and everyone was excited. Turns out 3 months later, that the leasing company that was going to buy them for $2 million backed out because they couldn't get insurance in Canada. And I was happy that it didn't fulfill, because they were going to put them on the road into a lease program. The next highest bidder, and I can't give you the amount, ended up getting the cars, and they left yesterday actually. But as far as where these cars come from, plates from all over. So 3 Chinese, we've got a Japanese one on its way in, we've got a Canadian car here, and see that yellow one over there? That one is from the Ukraine. What typically happens is the Roadster owners realize that for low-tech auto, you can take that to the Tesla service centers, tires, discount tire, suspension, even Tesla service centers. But when it comes to working in the electronics, that's when they get shipped to us. And they get transported in from all over North America. There's a unique story with virtually every Roadster, and it's kind of funny because when you buy a Chevy Tahoe or a Ford Fusion, and you sell that car, you really don't miss it, right? With these, there's a story with each one, and it's just amazing how they all come with stories. First of all, you have to remember that when these were bought, Tesla was a type of company that was on the verge of bankruptcy. I had customers tell me that, you know what, I had some extra money to throw at something. I didn't think they were going to be able to deliver, but I made my down payment on the OG Roadster, not really certain that it would ever be delivered. So they were usually well-to-do people. A lot of celebrities were in that mix. And fortunately, Tesla did make it, and they ended up, sending these out to customers. So let me show you some of the pedigreed Roadsters. This is the world's lowest mileage Roadster here. It's called Arctic White, and you had mentioned earlier, or you asked earlier about the cost of these cars in the day. If they were optioned, carbon fiber hood vanes, carbon fiber door sills, dash, this doesn't have the dash, and then the carbon fiber spoiler, and a sport model, it could get as high as $157,000. A bare bones Roadster was about $109,000, $115,000, somewhere in that range. This car literally only has 38 miles on the odometer. The backstory is somewhat murky still. Why did this person take this car, buy this car, and never drive it? There's also some scuttlebutt about who may have owned it, which I'm not going to release because it's not confirmed. But it looks like it was a celebrity-owned car. And today it's on our Roadster matchmaking site. There are bids starting to come in for a car like this. And again, my suggestion would be, this is a piece of art. This is a Picasso you hang on the wall. This is not something that you put a replacement battery in and then put miles on.
How much do you think something like this would be worth? What your
asks that.
professional opinion? What do you think? Just an opinion.
I'd like to see it go to $500,000.
$500,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like you said, so 38 miles. Is this the lowest mileage Roadster in the world that is known?
It is. That is known, yeah. And the reason I can say that with some certainty is, on our website, we have a registry for Roadsters. And for 3 years now, the Roadster owners have been registering their cars. Nothing like this has ever been registered. And of course, we've got almost 2,000 on that registry, so that accounts for the majority of them. Now, behind you here is a whole nother story. This is the car that could arguably be called the first Tesla Roadster. In 1997, AC Propulsion Systems in San Dimas, California, an engineering firm, got a grant from the federal government to build 3 electric sports cars to prove that sports cars could be made electric and could be fun to drive. This particular one went through a fire that we had in 2017, so the panels are missing on it. We sandblasted it, painted it the original yellow color, and there are 2 of them at the Peterson Museum right now. So anyway, they took this car to Laguna Seca in California and ended up clicking off 4-second quarter-mile runs.
Wow.
Or, I'm sorry, 0 to 60.
Yeah.
0 to 60 in 4 seconds.
With 12-volt batteries packed in this thing.
Exactly.
In 1997.
In 1997.
Well, whenever it actually ran, but yeah, from tech in 97. That's incredible, because even these Roadsters, what's the 0 to 60 on the Roadsters?
3.9 seconds and 3.7 seconds for the sport version.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too far off, and it began embarrassing Lamborghinis, McLarens, and Ferraris on the track, and people started taking notice. By the way, this car right here is Founders Model S number 3. Right here you can see the signature, or the Founders, and then in the VIN there's an F. This is one of the cars that crossed the stage when Elon was first handing keys to the first Model S customers. And this particular customer doesn't only have Founders 3 Model S, he also acquired Founders Roadster number 3, which is sitting right over there.
No way.
The same color. And he's selling these two as a set. Do you notice the panel gaps here?
No, it's no panel gap.
No panel gaps. And in the back, it gets even worse. So we had Tesla employee number 295 here about a year or so ago. And I asked him, I said, what's this all about? You know, why the panel gaps on the early cars? Oh, it's simple. When they hired the engineer to buy the stamping machinery for the Model S, he came from the ice steel world. This is aluminum. And when you stamp aluminum, it relaxes. So you have to overcompensate. So they ended up scrapping a few $1 million worth of stamping machinery to get the right stuff. And they told customers basically, you know what? We hope you can live with it because it's going to be very difficult to repair something like this.
Yeah.
And I told this customer, you know, this is Founders number 3. This is part of this vehicle's value and provenance. I wouldn't change that. I wouldn't fix that. Just leave it as is.
Yeah, it's part of the story of the car.
Yep. Now, the Roadster number 3 also has a flaw similar to this. And this is, as you can see, VIN number 3 with an F in it. In the Roadster world, there were variations of Roadster. There was the engineering prototypes, EPs. So that would have been an E instead of an F. Then there was the the validation prototypes, and these were test cars. Those cars typically do not get released to the public because they get beat to death, right?
Yeah.
Smashed up, all of that. Then came the Founder Series, which was reserved for the VIPs, the venture capitalists, family members in the company. And then eventually they went to signature cars, which in this case, they built only 100 of the signature Roadsters. Well, this one is Founders number 3. Elon has Founders number 1, Martin has Founders number 2, and this person owns Founders number 3.
That's pretty wild.
We have similar imperfections. So see this right here? This is the hood vein. This is a carbon fiber body. This is the weave that's showing through. Well, back in the day, they didn't have their body paint act together very well, and cars sometimes left with these kinds of imperfections. In the EV repair business, there's a certain elevated risk when you take a battery out of a car because there are battery safety management protocols and systems running that keep the battery safe from igniting, basically. If you overcharge a resistive cell, lithium ion ignites. So what we built here was a battery bunker. It's nothing more than a one-tripper sea container, they call it. So it's only come across the ocean one time. We put drywall throughout this bunker. And this is where we do the battery work that's outside the car. And here, the reason I brought you in was, this is a Tesla Roadster battery pack. You can tell it's trapezoidal. The reason for that is it had to fit up into that Lotus Elise body. There are 11 sheets. Each sheet, and here's one, contains 621 lithium ion cells connected in a combination of series and parallel with bricks. And what we're doing in the battery bunker here, we have DC to DC converters that are keeping these sheets on life support, ready to go in a car. By the way, here's another unusual car. I'm going to point out the ones that are special. This is a signature green, which is darker than that British racing green. But take a look at the VIN on this one. This is VIN number 18.
Uh-huh.
It's a signature 100 car. And it was one of the early ones that doesn't have the carbon fiber plaque. Normally on signature 100 cars, between the seats, you'd have a carbon fiber plaque with the signature of all of the first 250 employees. We've got the Tesla Roadster here, and he's the only guy that put profanity on his carbon fiber plaque. You could actually get your name on there.
All right, where's it at?
Let's go find it. It's actually Thunder Gray, I think. It might be that one. Yeah, I think this is it. Okay, so what you want to do, you got more room over there. If you open the door and then take a shot of that carbon fiber plaque. I don't know if your channel is going to be happy with the, it's right between the seats facing that way. This car spent its life in a Ferrari dealership in Chicago, Illinois, Continental Auto, pristine, and it was the owner's wife's car. Well, they bricked it, which means they didn't charge it for a couple of months and the battery went dead. She contacted us. I said, well, put it back on the road, just send it here. Well, It turns out her husband was terminally ill. She was preoccupied. 6 months later, she comes back and says, you know what? I just haven't been able to get my head around it. She said, I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to sell it to Tesla. Now, we're under NDA with Tesla. And I couldn't tell her at the time why they were going to buy her car and what they were going to do with it. This is VIN number 1457, which is the second last production Roadster made. It's got 7,000 miles on the odometer. It's got a pristine interior with a new car smell, and I couldn't let that car just simply get parted out. So I did a pound rescue, right? Paid more than I should have for it, and here it sits today waiting for the next owner.
So this was pretty cool. We certainly appreciate the invite, and I hope that you anticipated me actually taking you up on that invite, because this was even cooler than I thought. Now, I've seen some videos and stuff of what's going on here, but it's
Absolutely.
just a sea of really cool cars, and you know, part of the Tesla community, part of the electric community, not just Tesla, is filled with really cool people like yourself that have so much knowledge that's important for how we continue this transition to electrification, and you know, taking care of these one-of-a-kind cars. It's just something very special, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to come here and see it, and for you to share that with us.
Now, let me make you guys an offer. You guys want to drive a Tesla Roadster?
Well, I mean,
What do we think? There we go. Okay.
at an angle up here, we are low to the ground. That's one thing I really wish Teslas did more of, is that whine. Like, a lot of it's quieted down, it's deadened, it's, you know, I get all that, but man, I love that sound. Do you fit over there all right? Sure. Dude, it's got some get up and go. Once we get on this main road, I'll give it a little bit. Trying to think if I've ever sat this low to the ground in a car before. Ready?
Some stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Stuff.
Yeah.
We leave about 98% of the cars in the dust at a red light.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, there's nothing better than electric cars. They're so much fun. When you see them at a car show, it's such a special car. It's like the guy's not going to let you drive his car. But here we are, driving a Roadster in Phoenix, Arizona. This thing's like a little rocket. And I don't think there's power steering in here. I guess I have to wait for him to come out, don't I? Yes, I do, but I'm not about to try to share a turn radius with an F-150.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember where the road was?
Yeah, kind of.
Maybe that was it.
Maybe that was it.
Yeah.
Any of these.
Why wouldn't there be a side-by-side on the road?